nerds? It's me, your buddy, your pal, HeyArcher. Welcome back to my channel. Again, if you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Got another exciting episode with your friend, my friend, our buddy, Aaron Waller here on the channel. Aaron, welcome back to HeyArcher. What is happening?
Thank you so much. Happy to be here as always. I got a lot of crazy stuff going on doing this work from home thing and in the middle of a move, but I'm happy to take the time and visit the channel.
Yeah, it's nuts. I was telling Anthony on Rambling how it's like there's almost news because of a lack of news. Like I think as fans, we all kind of just find things to talk about, which is good. But I was excited when you finally launched your Cinemax late.
Yeah, I finally did it. We've been talking about it for I don't even know how long, and finally did it. And I'm really excited about it. It keeps me having something to do, to look forward to recording week to week now, and not having to wait. Especially now that we can't even go to the movies or do anything there. So now I have something to talk about, and that's talking about old stuff or somewhat old stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to do that.
Oh, actually, before we even hit on that, since you just reminded me of another video you made. So for those of you watching now, you may have seen that a lot of the movie companies are debating showing their movies at home on video on demand as opposed to in the theaters because theaters are closed. So Aaron actually made a really good video covering that. Do you want to quickly just kind of tell everybody what the point of that video was and what you were advising everybody about?
Yeah, so the whole idea about that video is I think it's really great that a lot of movie studios are putting this out for home media. It's going to make things a lot easier. I think this whole COVID-19 thing is really going to change a lot of the way things might be done down the road. But the whole idea about the video was something that I noticed while going through Vudu and iTunes, looking at these movies that are available for home release, which is actually some of them are you can own and other ones are only rent. Now, it's pretty much the same cost either way, it being about $19.99. But movies like Onward, Bloodshot that just recently came out, those ones are available for purchase. I think Sonic comes out this next couple days. Birds of Prey, I think, recently came out. All of those are owned. But there are some studios, which I think are Paramount mainly, if I'm not wrong, which is Invisible Man, The Hunt, and Emma, I think is the other one, which are rent for $19.99. I don't know the exact parameters of it, but it's essentially only renting it, so you're not actually owning the movie. I don't know if it's only available for a certain number of hours, but just kind of being cautious about what it is that you want to purchase or watch during this at-home time that we're all experiencing. And just being wise with your money as if you're going to own something versus just rent it.
So I was watching today, there's a YouTube channel, I've talked about them a couple times, called the Cyber Nerds. And somebody asked a question on there, do you think we should just go straight video on demand going forward? And somebody chimed in saying, they think some movies deserve to be in the movie. Some, you can get away with being at home. Do you feel kind of the same way where there should be a split? Or do you think, this is where I was leaning towards. I was leaning towards releasing it on both. So like, let's say Avatar 2 comes out, you give me the option to watch it at home if I want. But I, like, as a fan of movies, I know that that's a movie I have to see in the theaters. So where do you kind of fall on that theory?
As much as I would like to say, let's just put it all at home, because I think we're all just wanting to have that now. There's something about that theater experience that is kind of magical in a way, and that you have to see those movies on the big screen. Like an Avatar, like I don't know, like a Dark Knight, something that's like big or eventful, Endgame, something like that. Those I think you have to kind of have that experience for that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be IMAX, but like IMAX, like just that extra big screen, or like theaters upgrading with like lay down seats essentially now, making it like your living room. I think those are really good caveats to have to incentivize people to go. But I don't think every single movie should have to be on home media. I think a good majority it might be. If you're going to do it, they would probably do, if they did that model, I think they would just stick with the rent model, and maybe even only release it in a certain definition. Like maybe not let you view it in 4K. If you want to see it in that, you have to go to the theater. But maybe if you rent it for 720p or something like that, still maybe for $20, then that'll incentivize people. If you want to see like the full experience, full surround sound, full clarity, everything, then maybe go to the theater. That might be a good way to kind of balance out getting people to still go to the theater, but maybe still be able to access the media at home.
It's just crazy how many, because even, I mean, with the whole COVID thing in general, like how many industries are hurting and people losing their jobs and whatnot. I mean,
Sure.
these last 2 weeks could very well put movie theaters out of business. Like, you know, because nobody's going to download the AMC app unless the movie companies strike that kind of deal where it's like, all right, we're going to give exclusive rights to AMC to show our movies or whatever on their video service. But, you know, it's one of those things where if they did it, they'd be doing it out of the kindness of their heart, because really it's already going to iTunes, Google Play, all that stuff whenever something goes VOD. So it's really interesting to see kind of how that's all changing.
It's going to be a very delicate balance on what they choose to do. I don't think that they'll probably just go back to the full, fully in theaters after this whole thing is over. I mean, I know when some of the COVID-19 thing kind of died down in China, they started opening up theaters again. But because there was kind of a resurgence, they're like, no. They shut it down like hours later from reopening. So it's going to be really interesting to see what direction they go with it. But realistically, they'll probably just continue because they want to make the money. So they'll probably just keep putting it in theaters, if anything, unless they figure out a way to have and sort of prevent, I guess, like a watch party, if anything. Because if you're renting a movie for $20, but 6 people get to see it, when it's like $20 for 2 people to go see it at the theater, you're losing that money. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do going forward.
Yeah. So the series that, again, we've been talking about that you were going to start and you finally did, which I was excited for, is your cinematically late series. So the concept of that series, for those of you who have not seen previous episodes, is Aaron is reviewing movies that have come out a long time ago that he's not seen, so he's now giving you his up-to-date review on that. So one of the things that you did, Knives Out, I believe, recently, that was your first one.
Yes.
That you did.
Yep.
So I thought it'd be a cool idea to almost put the ball in you guys' court, and maybe Aaron and I can give you guys like 3 movies each that maybe you haven't seen that you should, since currently you're home, probably looking for things to watch aside from Tiger King. So actually, have you watched?
It's good. It's addicting.
It's
addicting.
Did you finish it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think me and my wife finished it in like a day, maybe a day and a half.
Yeah.
It just like kept evolving. And then it's funny because we even did like a little thing that she found online. Like it was like a bracket of like the craziest things that happen. And then you just bracket to whatever is the craziest thing that happened. Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's something that's on Twitter or something like that. So, but it's a crazy series, but I mean, it's just something that's kind of easy to watch, but it's just crazy at the same time that you just can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I guess I'll lead off with a movie that I think is super fun that a lot of people have not probably seen. And actually, I should have done research before this and probably told you that we're doing this in advance so we can tell people where to find it. But I'm pretty sure this one's still free in most places. Kung Fu is a super fun movie. Essentially, it's a cop who does Kung Fu and he has to fight Hitler at some point. It's as simple as it gets. And what I love about it is it embraces the 80s vibe of just the way it's shot. Like it looks like it's on an old like camcorder. It's shot in that format. You know, he's wearing the high top shoes and he has a Lamborghini with the doors open out. Like it's just as 80s as they can get. So Kung Fury, I think, is a fun watch. It's only like 45 minutes. That is a great movie. I think you should check out if you have not seen that as of yet. So I was wondering, is there one? I guess we can go back and forth. Like, is there a movie you can think of?
Yeah, sure.
Top of your head?
Something that I just think people should watch. I mean, I think some of my favorites are ones that, like I was telling you before, like terribly panned. So like, I don't know. for some reason, I think like the live action Cat in the Hat's like hilarious. Live action Speed Racer. There's something about the live action Speed Racer that I love. I don't
Yeah.
know what it was. Maybe I just saw it at the right time.
Yeah.
Let me look through my movies really quick and see if there's anything that comes off the top here.
Oh, I can go again then. So we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. If you want to go again, and I can just give a quick here little look.
Yeah. So actually, this one is a gift from our friend Mike watching, who I went on his IG and he was watching Last Samurai by Tom Cruise. And that's one that I'm surprised a lot of people have not seen. It is one of my favorite movies. And it's funny because I think Dave Chappelle, or it might have been Paul Mooney on Dave Chappelle, was saying how, like, what are we going to do next? Like, Tom Hanks is the last N-word on earth, something like that. Because the thought of Tom Cruise being the last samurai is kind of silly. But essentially, you know, if you've seen Dances with Wolves, it's the same concept, but in Japan. So to me, it's one of my favorite, like, underrated movies that I've bought that, like, 5 different ways, like DVD, on demand. I don't know if I had VHS on that one, but number of ones. So I definitely really downloaded it. So Last Samurai is...
Okay, let's stick with... I know there's 2 Tom Cruise movies. One that I saw at the time, which was Jack Reacher. That one I thought was really good. The first one was really good. The second one was okay, but the first one I really liked a lot, and actually got me to end up reading several of the series of the actual books. Now, if you actually have read the books, there's some deviation in terms of actual character, because Tom Cruise is like 5'7", but the actual character is supposed to be like a mountain. But the whole idea of it's really cool. That one was really good. And then surprisingly, one that I saw really late with my wife, that for some reason I was aware of it but never watched it, was Interview with the Vampire. That one I didn't watch for the longest time. I probably didn't see that until maybe less than a year ago. And it's mind-blowingly good. Like, I thought it was really, really good.
Some reason I've not seen that either.
It's kind of long, but like it's very easy to like get into, and then like I don't know, there's just something very enticing about the whole thing as it was going through. Like, I just felt like I couldn't get away from it. But I think that movie has a spin-off as well, which I think was like Queen of the Damned, which I never saw that one. But
that was the one where Aaliyah died right after that.
That one was like really bad. Yeah, I think so. That's like a spin-off of that, but I never watched that one either. But Interview with the Vampire is really, really good.
Wow, yeah. I have not seen that either. So this is great. You're giving me movies I should watch that I have not seen, which is the whole point of this whole segment. This is great. So I guess a third one, like, I just thought of, and I'm not sure if this one is free anywhere. It might be on Netflix. As I was brainstorming this just now, I was thinking about movies that, like, I owned on DVD from, like, when Hollywood Video went out of business, and I just bought a whole bunch of DVDs from them. And The Hunted with
was that with Tommy Lee Jones?
Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro. And that movie, it's funny, that came out the same time, or around the same time as Tears of the Sun, and also around the same time as there's a movie with Colin Farrell and Al Pacino, I think. Like, it's not The Specialist, it's something along those lines. And
I know what you're talking about. He's in the CIA or the FBI or something like that, right?
Exactly.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen that movie. I like that movie.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the
Yeah, I can't think of it. But, like,
I know what you're talking about.
The Hunted and that one were, like, kind of like, you're like, oh, they're both kind of the same concept. But I did like The Hunted more because I thought the close combat with the knives was really creative. And then even just the storyline of Tommy Lee Jones training this guy and then having to hunt the guy that he trained. I thought it was phenomenal. And I've watched that movie probably also a billion times. So if you can find that, at the end, of course, in the notes down below, if I can find the apps that these are on, I'll put them down there. But The Hunted.
It's called The Recruit.
The Recruit, that's it, yeah. and
That's
it's
what
Al
it was.
Pacino,
Oh,
right?
sorry.
Is it De
Yeah, it's
Niro?
Al Pacino. Yeah.
You know, okay.
No, it's Al Pacino.
Yeah. So actually, both.
Sorry, I was gonna bug me.
Yeah, no, it was good. You did it. I was gonna do it if you didn't do it. So, yeah, that's my third one. But actually, that's a two-parter. I would watch both of those movies. Hell, watch Tears of the Sun as well because that's an awesome war movie.
Any other ones? I mean, just looking at Colin Farrell's movies, SWAT I liked a lot. I remember seeing
Yeah,
that back in the day.
really good movie. Yeah,
It's kind of like a stupid action movie,
yeah.
but it's still great. Stupid action movies. I saw one recently. Oh, this one's going to be on Cinemax Relate at some point, but Gemini Man. It's not a great movie,
Yeah.
but it's kind of good. Like you can tell this was meant to come out years ago, but there's just something about it that I really enjoyed. I don't know what it was about it. That one was pretty good. That's going to be down the line on Cinemax Relate. There was another one. Pain and Gain is a really good one with The Rock and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah. Great. That's
And they're in Miami. It's really stupid. They're all morons, but like just like the absurdity of it is great, and most of it's based on real stuff. But obviously, they're going to take some liberties. But that one's a stupidly good one. That one I actually saw in theaters. I think like 4 or 5 times, just because I noticed something new every single time. And I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great. Yeah, great movie. And again, that's the one of the highlights of that movie. If you've not seen it, it's kind of a spoiler, but not really. There's a part where, as they're going through the movie, because Mark Wahlberg kind of like does voiceover in the movie, and there's a part where he's just like, "By the way, remember this is a true story." So even just that, I was like,
Yeah.
"That's good." They kept that in there, and they kept that tone to the movie.
Yeah, and I was actually living in Miami at the time. I don't know if it was when they were shooting, but like when that movie came out. So I was like, "Oh, I know that place," or "Oh, I know that place." So
Yeah.
that was kind of part of the fun of going to see it.
That's awesome. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I just feel like it's been a fun topic the last couple of weeks, because the comic book industry as a whole is taking a hit on this. Even the other industry I didn't even think about, but I've been watching a lot of videos on them, is like the statue industry, like all the high end, statues that you can buy, of various characters and whatnot. But as far as the comic books go, I was telling Anthony on the Rambling episode that there's no big events happening that are getting people excited to go and read comics when the stores open again, if they do, except for the fact that now we're kind of starting to learn that the 5G is coming out with DC. So I guess to cover all three exciting things, what are your thoughts on the 5G event if you looked into it? And do you think that is the bigger sell, or the Snowflake and Safe Space New Warriors thing? Is that the bigger sell? Or do none of them sell anything?
Okay, let's start with my thoughts on 5G. First of all, I was super confused when they announced it because what DC had to do with cell phone service, I had no idea, because that's the same time that 5G cell phone service started to become talked about.
Yeah.
And you even saw like the 5G E or whatever pop up on your phone if you had the right model or whatever. So it's super confusing. I think that was just poor timing. But what are my thoughts on it? I mean, I was actually kind of talking to Anthony in the comments of your video about that, is that it sounds like a good idea if they had it like as the multiverse thing, or it's kind of like a side story where you can continue it. It's on Earth, insert number, and this would be the continuity there. But if it's, because it's kind of detracting from the characters that we've known essentially for, I think Batman and Superman have been out like 80 years.
Been an avid pro like mental passing fan. Like I thought when SpiderMan, when they wrote it so that Peter Parker died and Miles came in, I actually like really enjoyed it. And to your point, I like the fact that it was a separate universe. I just think their issues now are that they keep trying to get rid of multiverse stories, and they keep writing themselves back into multiverse stories. So the other half of that is the fact that, you know, over the years, they get you to fall in love with these characters. And, you know, when you look at Batman, you see Bruce Wayne. Like, that's the character you like. You don't like the figure of Batman. You like Batman. Almost separate to the way that, I mean, to go back to it, Power Rangers has it, where in Power Rangers, you like characters, but then the characters leave and somebody else fills in that color Power Ranger. So you're like, yeah, I've always liked the Red Ranger. I like this version of Red Ranger versus that version of Red Ranger. So I think that's where the comic book world is different. And they're going to have, I think they have to keep it Bruce Wayne's Batman. Yep, maybe, you know, Dick Grayson is Batman for a story or two. And then Bruce is like, you know, they've got to do that. I don't think you can do a run of, because I mean, Marvel's already tried it. Like Sam Wilson, Captain America failed. I mean, that just is what it is, because it's not, we didn't fall in love with Captain America as the mantle. We fell in love with Cap himself, you know?
Yeah, and I've always thought it was kind of strange. Like, I think the idea of passing the mantle is great, especially when you have characters like Miles, like Dick Grayson, who can easily fill the role,
right?
And who you actually care about. But some of them you just don't really care about.
Yeah.
But something I was actually thinking about when I was listening to your last HeyArcher, when you were talking, or sorry, Ramblings with Anthony, was just this is going to be super meta. The thought of people in the continuity, like normal people, like day-to-day people within Gotham City or within Metropolis or what have you, who think Batman has been around for 80 years. So they have to know somebody's got to be taking it over. Like, it keeps changing. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if a regular person, like, oh, Batman was around when I was a kid, and then like, you know, the grandpa's telling like the kid, like, I don't know. That seems like a super meta thought that has no purpose. But just like the idea that this.
I was gonna say 2 movies that did that. Sorry to cut you off, but the second you said that, I thought of 2 movies: The Phantom and was it The Mask of Zorro, where that was the thing. People were like, "How is that person still here? They were around when I was younger." So yeah,
that was just like a random thought that I had when I was listening to that ramble.
No, that's a really good point. But to your point,
I was just gonna say,
like,
and
you cared about those other characters. So like, it's not a well you can always go to, because we're not always gonna like having Miles be Spider-Man, having Dick Grayson be Batman. You're not always gonna get people to fall in love with these characters. You just can't do it for everybody, because when you tried it with, you know, when they brought in Jason Todd was hated as a Robin. So it's one of those you can't always pull from that well.
Yeah. And then, like, I think the just like the overall suit of the new Mantle Batman, I don't even remember his name, Duke, something like that.
Oh yeah. Duke Thomas.
It's like bright yellow. It just seems like even more absurd. I mean, yeah, it's like teched out, but it's like absurdly yellow, or like obnoxiously yellow is like the primary suit color.
Yeah, Duke Thomas.
Did they ever change that?
No, I mean they've changed the costume from like a motorcycle gear maybe to like a robotic suit, but it also,
I don't know, like Batman's supposed to be like that more stealthy, in the shadows type of guy. Now you're putting him in a neon yellow suit with a bright white bat. It just seems kind of absurd.
But then also, I mean, you're also taking away a certain mystique where like anybody can be Batman, you know, or anybody can be Green Arrow. Like, yeah, like whenever you had Dick Grayson, or you had whatever Speedy's name is, I can't think of it at the moment. Whenever you had like these sidekicks, like they were always good, but they were never as good as the main person. So if you do this mantle pass, and you know Duke is doing full, you know, things against Joker and solving all these crimes and doing all these things, it's like, that's cool, you can do that. But what, like, the whole thing of Bruce Wayne was you can't replace him. There's certain characters you just can't
Mhm.
replace. And if
Yeah.
you do and you're able to get it to work, that's great. Again, Miles Morales being
Yeah.
an example, but you can't do it for everybody, I don't think.
The only thing that I can think of for a lot of these comics to be able to say, oh, let's not do a multiverse, is if they went like with an X-Men route where they just try and keep it relevant with whatever's currently happening. Um, that's the only thing that I can kind of think of that might be able to avoid it a little bit, but you're still going to have those larger than life characters like a Superman or a Darkseid or um, I don't know, Galactus or Silver Surfer that's going to be obviously outside of that. So playing within that continuity is not always going to work
Right.
for the most part, I guess. So you're going to have go beyond that at some point.
And wasn't there wasn't Marvel the one that was like, we're always going to be timeless, like we're never going to put a date towards everything? Wasn't that them?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever seen, well, in most comics, really, them ever put a date, except for when they're maybe starting to talk about this 5G thing when they're saying that, the original Batman and Superman were maybe in like the, I don't know, 50s or whatever they're saying it was. And then they moved generation wise. But I don't know if anyone's, unless they've had like maybe Spider-Man helping out in 9/11,
Yeah.
do they reference or like the X-Men stopping, I don't know, JFK assassination or whatever timeline story may be happening. I don't know if they've ever used like years per se.
Yeah. No, that's a it's interesting because I mean I never claimed to understand the struggles of being a writer, because
Mhm.
it's like, how many times is Batman going to fight the Joker? Like you always got to find a way to redo it. Um, I just don't think this is it. I don't think this is the way to do it necessarily, unless you're just like, maybe it's the Star Wars route where it's like, all right, 30 years in the future, there's this, but Batman's referenced, but he's no longer exists. So this is its own story. Maybe
Now,
something like that.
I actually, just a random thought, I haven't looked too deep into the 5G thing, but are they also implying that the villains are also passing mantles, or they're just going to be brand new sets of
I don't know.
villains of whatever generation? Or
I'm gonna assume that it's gonna be mantle passing because they've done it before. I mean, it's the Batman
Mhm.
Beyond thing, really. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Batman Beyond, Joker like died and then made a clone of himself with one of the Robins or something like that, right?
yeah,
Oh,
with
that was the movie or
it was a
something
movie
like
with
that.
Tim Drake, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have the Joker gang. You have the Joker
Hmm.
gang, and Harley Quinn, like old lady Harley Quinn, was the helping them out, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so do you think between the two events, do you think 5G is a better release than the New Warriors, Marvel's
I
flagship?
feel like the New Warriors is just trying to say, hey, we're recognizing and trying to bring in people of all race, color, nationality, self identification. It doesn't really have anything to do with story other than like, hey, it's really cool that we have maybe, I don't know, transgender character, or we have this person that you can identify with. Because you can identify with this person, a lot of the times it's usually like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, that people identify with. Now they have another character that you can identify with, and that's going to get you to want to read that. But if I had to pick out of the two, probably just my DC heart will go to 5G.
Yeah.
But I don't really have a ton. I mean, I end up reading like the staples of Marvel, but I don't like keep up with a lot of whatever maybe they have going on. DC, I read the staples, and then I feel like it better interweaves with other things that are going on. Maybe that's just my own opinion, but I would always go probably more DC over Marvel 90% of the time.
Agreed. Yeah, I've always leaned that way too. For a while, I got into Marvel more when I got back into reading a lot, and that was when they started the Ultimate series. Because I just thought I thought the way the characters were drawn, the costume changes, all of that, I found that really interesting. But then they lost. I mean, they lost us right away because then they brought back the other, 616 whatever universe, and it was just like I thought we were starting over. Like it got crazy because I just can't trust them. I just can't trust them to do it. I think at the end of the day, history repeats itself.
I think really only the Ultimates one was probably the one worth reading. I mean, a lot of the Marvel ones feel like they're kind of scattered or like they're more one-off stories, which is why I think the staples are the more interesting ones.
Right.
Like for instance, and it ends up always being Spider-Man for some reason for me. Like a lot of the other Marvel ones are difficult to read. But like I went through a big Spider-Man phase where I was reading, there's one called Spider-Man Blue, which is like he's still with I think like Gwen Stacy, but it's very much not him like doing Spider-Man things all the time. It's more him just like in a day-to-day not being Spider-Man as just Peter Parker, and like him like going on a date or whatever. So that one was really good. And then there was one, I don't remember the name of it, but I had to read it once I heard about it. Like an old man Spider-Man. It's like super crazy. I don't even remember the name of it. But essentially like Peter Parker's old, and then like he has like this crazy sequence where like Doc Ock is dead, but also like the arms are still working. So it's like the arms are still like have a mind of their own, but like carry around Doc Ock's like skeleton or something like that. I don't remember the name of it. It's super weird, but it's still worth a read. That one was pretty interesting. Trying to think of any other Marvel ones. Yeah, I just don't tend to read a whole lot of Marvel. I mean, I've read like Civil War, but like Ultimate Spider-Man was probably one of the best because it did a very good job of building up Peter Parker. He cared about him. He died, passed it to Miles, and they could continue that. It wasn't like amazing. We changed it from Amazing Spider-Man to
Spectacular
Spider-Man 2.0 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it flowed very nicely.
Yeah, it's true. So as I guess final topic, I want everybody's opinion on why they should be releasing Power Rangers versus Ninja Turtles in every way, shape, and form. Have you read Power Rangers versus Ninja Turtles? Have you actually seen it?
I haven't read it, but the art is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like just seeing the turtles in Power Ranger suits and essentially like the Ninjetti Power Rangers. Is pretty awesome. But it's a little bit more streetwear for them. But it's really awesome. Like I think that's probably one of the best crossovers art-wise that I've seen in a while. Like it makes sense across the board.
And even like I've kept up with it in the sense of like YouTube videos on what's going on in it. My current intention is to buy the trade when it comes out. I haven't bought a trade in forever, but I want to support that series the best that I can because I need like figures, I need statues, I need Ralph in the Red Ranger suit. Like I need all of it.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just way too good. What I think is going to be interesting, and I think you were talking about on your Instagram page, or maybe put it in like a story about you tag somebody, and we're talking about maybe cosplaying or something like that.
Yeah.
And like cosplay in any direction you put it will be badass. Whether you're doing a turtle dressed as a Power Ranger or vice versa, a Power Ranger dressed as a turtle, or the ninja version with this more street style. I think either way is going to be really cool.
My friend Steven.
But art-wise, I think it's one of the coolest ones.
Yeah, for sure. Any other things you want to cover or plug before we call it an episode?
No, just really quickly, the Spider-Man comic that I was talking about just now was called Spider-Man Reign, Reign. That's the really weird one. But no, I don't think so. Other than just the Cinemax late thing, I want to make sure that I stay on track with that and I don't deviate. Things have gotten crazy, but thankfully, because of this whole work from home thing, I'm able to carve out a little bit more time for that, so that's good. I was wanting to make a video about something. I had an idea for it. Oh, probably Tiger King. It's just been on my mind. But other than that, no, just new videos coming out shortly.
Wait, what was the
But
topic?
yeah, except for
What was it? I missed it.
Tiger King,
Oh, Tiger King, yeah.
just because I think it's absurd.
Yeah,
It's a hot topic. I can't help it.
it is. It
It's
is.
been on my mind since I watched it. So
Oh, it came out today. Yeah, I guess spoiler alert. It's not really a spoiler, but turns out all the songs he sings, he's not the one singing them. It was someone else's
I
voice.
knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. As
Yeah.
soon as I heard that, I was like, that's not him. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm the only one that was actually surprised by the whole thing. I gave everybody
I
the
knew
benefit
that.
of the doubt. I tried.
I knew it.
Yeah, I really wanted it to be him singing. I mean, for those of you who have not watched Tiger King, this is not a plot point of it, so we didn't spoil the show in that sense. But long story short, he has country albums that people are currently buying online, like to try to support him, and it turns out it's not even him singing it. So there's that. Dope.
Yeah, it's just an absurd story, and it's just, and I know we started the episode with this, but it's just so absurd, and like somehow this weird guy in Oklahoma just like united the nation through Netflix.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, while we're all going through like this terrible worldwide crisis.
Well, there was a meme that came out today that was like what we thought the Tiger King would be versus what we got, and it was the dude from Walking Dead, the black guy with the tiger.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was, yeah, so it's true.
It's
Awesome.
addicting. It's really easy to watch.
Yeah. If you guys haven't watched Tiger King yet, what are you doing? It's like, I mean, it's 7 episodes, 45 minutes each, so it does take a little bit of time, but don't be that person who just hasn't seen it, because it's really good. I think it's entertaining. But thanks, Aaron, for being here. Always a pleasure to have you on the channel. As always, open door policy for you. This was HeyArcher, episode 165. I hope that all of you are safe at home. I've said this a million times this week, and I'll keep on saying it as long as we are working from home. I love how creative everybody is being at home, that all of you are, not everybody, but a lot of you who have shown interest in creating your own nerd content in your own podcast have started doing so. So if you're interested in that and you haven't started already, down below in the description, I have links to all the things I use to make this channel, as well as my HeyArcher YouTube 101 series. So I want to help you guys make your content just like what Aaron and I do, because it's actually fun. And as I pointed out, people like Aaron and myself would have never met if not for content creation. So thanks again for being here. Like, comment, subscribe on your thoughts with everything that we've talked about. Most importantly, head over to Aaron's channel. I'll link that at the end. Subscribe to him. Catch Cinematically Late coming out weekly. It won't be late. There's my dad joke of the day. And we will see all of you nerds in the next video.